Welcome to part 4 of Fangirlz review of Hellblazer. Joining me today in my journey, as always, Bethany. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. You're all refreshed from a vacation, right?
Mm-hmm. And not sick anymore.
Yes, that was true. When we last did the Paul Jenkins, which we were kind of like a little bit about, and you were all poised to go to vacation. You're like, I don't want to talk about Hellblazer. I'm just thinking about my vacation.
Right.
And you're back, and this time around we did volume 13, 14 and 15. That's what we're going to be talking about today, which was done by Warren Ellis, that I was very excited to read, and then by Brian Azzarello, volume 14 and 15, which so we're going to talk about that because you came back from your vacation and this is what you had to read.
Yeah, a little disappointed.
Spoiler!
Oh,
first of the episode. So let's start with volume 13, which was by Warren Ellis. That I was very excited, and this was its issue. Let's see. I should have read this before I started. Issue 134 to 145. So let's get this going. What was your overall thought about this?
I think I gave it a 3 to a 3.5 on Goodreads. I liked it. It still felt like John Constantine. It didn't feel too different from the formula. There were some that, like we were talking about at the end, that were kind of boring, that weren't really memorable. But other than that, I mean, it was fairly solid. It was kind of weird too, though, because like the art was like a bunch of these square panels.
Let me put you. Yes, there was a lot of that with like words on the side. Yeah,
instead of actual like. I mean, it wasn't the whole thing, but I just thought that was kind of weird. I've never seen that in a
comic. And then the story was like, so I have pretty much like, we're so much in sync because every time you were reading ahead of me, and then you were telling me like, oh yeah, so I gave that. I'm like, interesting. I read that. I'm like, oh my god, I gave that too. Like I gave it three star as well. And one of the things, like, I was so excited to read this because I love Warren Ellis, love Planetary and Authority by him, and the Transmetropolitan is one of my favorites. So I'm so excited to see what he does with Constantine. Nothing much. Like it was like he was there only for 9 issues, and I think there was like another writer coming in for the rest. Or it was like 2-3 issues, and so the first one was like a 6-issue arc of him avenging an ex-girlfriend's death, because she's sticking around and she can't go, and it turns out that she was killed by a jealous ex-boyfriend who was also a magician, but it wasn't Constantine, and Constantine just goes around, finds him and avenges him, and like you said, very standard Constantine affair. Followed by that, there were a couple of one-shots. At the time when I was reading it, I liked it, but and that was about a couple of weeks ago. And just before this, we were looking through it. We're like, what happened in it? What happened?
Yeah, I would definitely say not as memorable for sure. But I mean, now that you said like he only did like 9 issues, maybe that was why he couldn't. It's hard to grasp a character this, with so many volumes, and then you do such a short story for it, maybe.
Right, and the thing is, like, it kind of reminded me of Warren Ellis's Moon Knight, which was also 6 issue, and each issue was like one-shots, and pretty much just Moon Knight just going around and taking care of business, and it was pretty much the similar, Constantine going around taking care of business, or at one point he's just have a drunken discussion about world history, hidden history of the world. I think it was right around the time Princess Diana's death, and that was discussed. And also Ellis's favorite topic, which was John Kennedy and Jacqueline Kennedy. He is obsessed with that couple, like with them, and I'm like, once again, that got brought up. And one of the things, like when we left Constantine in the John Paul Jenkins run, all his friends has left. It's pretty much Chaz that is like constant in his life, who is left over, and that was another thing. Chaz is here, and that's it. And yeah, it was like very like in grand scheme of Constantine history, not one for the memory, is it?
Yeah. I will say sometimes I've noticed what authors do with Constantine is they make him like as if he's like solving crimes for people because they never say like how he does gets money. I'm
Like,
assuming he's
that's
getting
true.
like helping people with his magic maybe. So it kind of felt like that.
Yeah, and he wasn't also like overpowered or anything. He's
Mm-hmm.
just, just using a lot of the time kind of like, oh, spirits in this room, go away, spirit, kind of thing. That's what he
Yeah.
was doing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it felt like that. So yeah, like nothing much more to add to that. Very
Yeah.
quick, like it's our very quick and short review of volume
Mm-hmm.
13. So you gave it 3, right?
Yeah. 3 to a 3.5. There were some stories I really liked, so
Yeah, stories that we really like, we can't remember anymore, by the way.
well, I remember that one, but it's very short anyways, with the serial killer in the room.
That's right.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. You and then you were like, oh, that's true. It was very creepy. I'm like, was it? What was it?
yeah. The art was creepy. That was the thing. Like,
Let's see if I can find it.
yeah,
Yeah, so there's
it's like
this.
smack
There's this.
dab in the middle,
Yeah, there's this one. Can you see it?
and all the pages are black, and then the art on top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like look at this. Like it's just interesting. Like, it's kind of like this the whole time. And I thought it was a very like I think the coloring makes the art.
Mm-hmm.
Like because it was like a very monotone and then,
Mixes
but
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. Volume 13. I mean, I think it's like a good palate cleanser like after a long run by Paul Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is kind of like a short, and it's super fast read, by the way. I read that within like a couple of hours, like even less than that. Yeah. So that brings us to volume 14 and 15. And Devin is laughing already. So this is by Brian Azzarello. Before we start, what's your like? Do you have any relationship as like? Have you read Brian Azzarello stuff before this?
I have not, but I know about his series 100 Bullets, and it's supposed to be like really well received. So I thought, oh, okay, well if that's good, and also too, like I read some of the reviews before we got into it, and I was like, this isn't bad. Like it's got decent reviews, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll like it.
Right. So my experience with Brian Azzarello, I read 100 Bullets, and I also read his Wonder Woman run.
Okay.
100 Bullets is very interesting. It's like a hidden history, hidden society that's going around doing things, and this guy recruits these people and gives them 100 bullets and said that you can do anything to solve your problem, and you can keep the rest of the bullets or whatever the deal is, and then go around do that. Now, at that time when I read it, I didn't actually see this issue, but we're going to talk about it. A lot of the things he has is like race, like the people are very racist. Like it comes like a racial stereotype. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Racial stereotype, rape and sexual assault on both men and women. A lot of shocking thing that people are doing that you are like, why? So that was very rampant on it. I didn't think too much about it. I read it in my early days of comic reading. So I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool. And it's slow because it takes a long time to everything to come together. Tell me if that also sounds familiar. Like it's taking long time for things to come together.
Yeah, definitely.
And a mystery that kind of goes on, and you're like, what is happening? Why am I reading about this? Get to the point.
My problem with it too is like also the motives of people, and it was like, what was the point? Like I get shock factor, that's great, but if there's no point to it, then
right. Oh no, I mean, hold on to the thought. I mean, because I'm still talking about 100 bullets, right? So that happens, and his Wonder Woman run is very interesting from the point of view of Greek mythology, a retelling of Greek mythology. As a Wonder Woman story, I'm like, is it? Because Wonder Woman is just there, and she's not doing much. Everyone else is talking about Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman herself is not doing much. Tell me if that also sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So, having said that, what was your thought about Brian Azzarello's Hellblazer?
So many thoughts. Yeah, so it's been hard for me not to like spoil my thoughts on this. I did not like it.
At
um,
all.
yeah, not very much at all, and mostly because of some of the stuff we talked about that you mentioned, and I guess is a formula for him where, like, I don't really think the issues of rape and stuff like that are really like a good plot. Like, I don't know. I didn't think he did it effectively either, and to do that to a character that we've been following for so long.
Right. So
Yeah.
the thing is, like as it stands right now, both Bethany and I, we kind of consider Constantine to be our adopted son. Like we're protective of him because we've been reading Constantine's story for this long.
Mhm.
And in Brian Azzarello's, like I think it was about what 25 issues that he wrote, like right, like
Yeah.
about like 100. He wrote it from 146 to 160, 74, whatever that is. Do your math. I'm not good at it, even though I should be. So he writes that, and in that within that time frame, he got raped twice.
Yeah.
Constantine got raped twice.
Yep.
And both times, I'm like, did this just happen? Like, wait.
There was no point to it either. Like, I mean, maybe I could forgive it if there was some sort of point to it that would add to the plot. It didn't do anything.
No, it didn't. It
Yeah.
did nothing. And we were
Mm.
both outraged by that. And the thing is that, here's the thing, even though Constantine himself wasn't, the very first page, the very, very first page of his run starts with a prison rape. Like, it starts off with one of the because Constantine, for some reason, is in prison. We are like, okay, why? That's not Constantine we know, who will willingly go to prison. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fine. Maybe there's a point to it. We're going to follow through. So it starts with a prison rape. And the caricature of Black characters.
And some other ones too, because there was like a
Hispanic,
Jewish character and
right, Hispanic characters, and then the KKK is like everywhere. Like, oh my God, these racist characters were using the N words left, right, and centers everywhere.
look at that face.
And hang on, sorry. What is it?
He's just so ugly.
Oh my God! And that's Constantine.
Yeah.
The Constantine that we know supposed to be the very handsome and sexy all this time. This art by Richard Corbin, I don't know what else he did. I never encountered. Apparently, he did Hellboy issue, which I don't remember because I've read entire Hellboy. It's so ugly. Oh my God. Do you want, like, oh God, look at us.
I don't know, because I know it's like an American prison system. I guess he was trying to make some type of commentary against that. But like, I remember I was talking to you about some of my personal issues with not liking it.
Right.
I really do not like the whole plot of. They do this with a lot of stuff, but like male on male rape type of stuff. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
I'm not a fan.
No, and the thing is, the first one, it was one of the hardest to read, not just because the story content, because he's in prison and all of that. And on top of that, just the art was so ugly. It was so ugly art that really annoyed us. And then, what is Constantine power? Because it seems like he drove entire prison insane. Like he started a riot by driving everyone insane, like doing something to their dream. So is he Sandman now?
But also, what was his real motives other than like, because everybody there was kind of out for themselves, and there was a lot of people that didn't even mess with him. So what was the motive behind completely destroying this whole prison?
Right. I don't get it.
A couple of guys made you mad, I guess. I don't know.
And so anyway, then obviously he gets out of the prison, and then he kind of goes on a journey. So here's the thing. Remember I was telling you about that Brian Azzarello is like a first American to write Hellblazer for longer than one issue. I think there was another American writer who wrote only one issue, the Laundromat issue, back in like volume 5 or whatever. And so then this whole time he was in America. He's in America, and he's like going through like the shady middle America part where people are not very nice. And so the thing is, like, after that, the issue becomes better. Like, the art becomes really better.
Yeah.
And he's sexy again, and he's going around saving people and stuff. And one of the things, like, he kind of had this talks to these two guys who are like, maybe not, like, nothing's going good with them. Then he caused an accident. Turns out they had a girl, like, kidnapped in their boot. And treatment of women in this are, oh my god, that is, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, were they supposed to be rednecks too, by the way?
I don't know.
I think so.
You're from Texas, you tell me.
Right. It felt like they were supposed to be like redneck characters, and like can I talk about the whole thing with the town?
Yeah, tell me. Like, that's next, so go ahead.
Okay. So I'm trying to think. They didn't say why Constantine was in jail yet, right?
No, they didn't.
Okay. So he's in this like really small town, and apparently it was a town where like a bunch of like coal miners and stuff used to get I guess like the whole town was surrounded getting their money from that, sorry. But they lost the coal mines, and so their genius way of making money is to record different people throughout the town in videos, like, and make money by using their dog. It wasn't really emphasized how, but you can kind of get the drift of what they were doing. They also drugged Constantine, and then that's one of the ones where he gets raped, because I'm like, they just show like a guy like in a BDSM outfit and then a dog.
Right. So the thing is, like, it's very much Pulp Fiction. Like, I'm like, oh, Brian Azzarello saw Pulp Fiction and then decided to do it. And yeah, that's their genius way of earning money. Which, by the way, how much money could they be earning? What is the click per minute? Like, CPM rate
underground for that.
Yeah, and back in 1999, I mean, I don't know what was the business model for this. And their way of earning money is like putting up video of people suffering, either through like, being tortured, or there's this one girl who is naked and tied to, once again, like treatment of women, tied to a tree, and she's just naked and sitting there, and they're recording all of this, and that's how they're making money. And
they also were acting like the dog was like the main star. So I'm like,
the dog. So that's what gets us, creates a question. Did the dog raped?
I don't know. The whole town and the dog. I don't know.
I mean, it was like constantly that, and then turned out Constantine actually went to jail for murdering one of the three brothers. Like, two of the brothers runs this operation in this hotel, like in this Podang town, and Constantine was like, it was what he killed one of the brothers.
He was like set up though.
Right, is set up, and I still don't get what was the story. What was the story? What was the motivation of the shocking things?
What confused me too, though, is because he asked the two brothers. He's like, "Oh, okay, this is your brother. Did y'all do this to me because you're trying to get revenge or something?" And they're like, "No, you just looked like you'd be a good star in our movie."
Yeah, and the thing is, problem is, so this is like the second story that he got raped. He just brushes it off. There's no. Yeah. This is the same Constantine we have seen in Garth Ennis's run, who was so shocked, like, who was really traumatized by whatever the priest tried to do. Remember, there was a priest who tried to rape him, and how it affected him.
Yeah.
This same Constantine now is just shaking it off, no problem.
I'm gonna pretend like he's not really like this. This didn't happen.
So it's like, this is a headcanon. I'm not going to, this didn't happen. As far as Bethany is concerned, this didn't happen. It's not our Constantine. And he's not acting like Constantine.
No.
Because things just happen around him, and he's just a passive participant, which is, we have seen him do something similar in Wonder Woman. And then kind of story kind of goes, it just this strange, like, he's in a rest stop motel talking while there's other things happening in the background. And once again, characters doing some really shady things to black characters, black people, that is like, oh my God, look at it, how shocking, isn't it? And you're like, why? And
But
then
it
yeah,
was
go
poorly
ahead.
written though. Like if it was done in a way to be like effective, maybe, but it wasn't.
Right. And then the most, like, where he smarked the most, Frozen, what freezes over,
Mm-hmm.
he smarked the whole time, and things were happening that I'm like, who are these people? Why do I care what's
Yeah.
happening? But I know you liked it a little bit more.
It slightly redeemed it for me just because I was like, oh, this is way better than the garbage I just read. So
That is true comparatively, but here's the thing: I read that issue after 2 days later, that arc
Oh.
2 days later, so I didn't have that redeeming quality because I already forgot. I needed to forget that
Mm-hmm.
other two arcs I just read, and then I came back and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. Art's good though.
Yeah,
Art's
the
good.
art's great. Yeah. Although again, I still don't really know like what ultimately happened, other than like there was this Iceman that had been killing people for a long time.
Yeah, but the thing is also, once again, what is Constantine's power now? What is
Mm-hmm.
his power set? Like, I did not understand that.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, what was your overall rating on this at the end?
2, and then I wrote a pretty decent review, like
I did see that.
lengthwise review on it, and all the stuff that we talked about how I didn't like. And then I said at the end, the only reason it's getting the 2-star at all is because I liked the freeze story. That was okay, but
Right.
other than that, I didn't. Yeah.
Right. So I kind of gave it, I want to give it a 1.5, but
Mm-hmm.
because Goodreads doesn't allow it, I had to give it a 2 as well.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, because I wanted to give it, I'm like, half for the other freezes over. Like, I didn't like it, and half for the freezes over. But I'm like, Goodreads doesn't let me.
Yeah.
So that brings us to High Water, Volume 15. Tell us more about this, Bethany. What was your thought?
So they've got like some. We'll see. I think I gave this one a 3 though. I liked it a little bit better. Things move really quickly, and also like it's one thing I did want to mention with all of these. It's not very wordy at all, so like you'll go through the volumes really quickly. Well, I don't want to ruin any of the plot, so I'm just gonna say that I gave it a 3. It was a lot better in comparison.
It was a lot better in comparison, and then it starts off with this certain American that comes to England in search of like this book, or this clock that's apparently going to tell the future or something like that.
Yeah.
And then John, Chaz, and a couple of his mates really dupes him, and then gives him a fake clock or something. And then it turns out that particular person comes back and was the one who somehow did all of this, conspired to have that person killed. So John goes to jail, but then he kind of knew that he's gonna be okay. I didn't get it, Bethany.
I'm gonna be honest. Honestly, even you describing that, I was like, oh wow. I guess I wasn't paying that close attention because I didn't get that. I'm like, okay, I guess that's okay, but
yeah. And then this is also has like one of the craziest story about this white supremacist and their like this like monologue about state of America and how like Black people are supposed to be genetically inferior, Jewish people are supposed.
Yeah.
It was so hard to read. It was so gross.
I did not like that one actually, but I remember because you're reading it from the perspective of a skinhead or a Nazi, and I forgot I didn't like that one.
Yeah, and like in the end, so once again, John is like a very passive participant. He's somehow taking care of, like, he wants to destroy these white supremacists, because the person that he was framed to kill, his ghost is hanging around.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, he starts to work for them, in air quote, smarking the whole time, trying to take care of, like, a dead body of this person that this bunch of skinhead killed. But then again, once again, he's not the passive participant in terms of taking down the white supremacists, which we don't even know whether they were taken down.
I don't think all of them, but I remember he makes this like, I thought this was kind of cool, magic wise. He made like a golem type.
Oh, he did do that. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
He did created a golem type. You know,
This is one of the guys that the white supremacists killed, and they like carved stuff on him.
Right, like yeah, they put like N-word lover or something on him, and he created a golem. It was like very much a Jewish religious thing. So there was like, I don't know whether he meant it to do all of this. And then that same guy that he duped before comes back in a big way. And he apparently, there was this whole, once again, this shock factor where the head of the white supremacist had to give him a blowjob. I mean, and his daughter was also threatened that, oh, and the word is either I come in her mouth or in yours, your choice. Cut to black, and then it turns out the daughter is like, homosexuality is a sin.
Yeah, that was like, oh my god, what was the point of that?
Once again, it was just like, I was like, okay, what did we learn? Like, what did we learn from it? Like, John didn't do anything.
Yeah, John didn't. Yeah, no, the only thing I remember liking about that one was the golem thing, just because it shows like his different magic capability, and I'm like, okay, if we can do more of that later on, aside from the actual plot.
Right. And then I was so confused about this part, that there was this one shot where he picks up a hooker, like our sex worker, sorry. Yeah, and then he goes back and there was the FBI agent, which I thought was a white person. Is it the same FBI agent? Because it was a black guy over this one.
I do remember him hanging out with an FBI agent.
It's not the same one then.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, he tries to entice this FBI agent into a threesome with the sex workers and him. And then the agent is like, no, I'm not going to be doing it. I'm married. And then he leaves. Gives him some information, which I'm not too sure about. How does that comes to play in overall art? And it's all about him going on to this, like, you know, having a good time with the sex worker, which... Once again, not the John we know, because he's typically pretty much of a ladies' man, like, you know, that he can get it.
So I guess one more thing to add to Brian, like a checklist, is lots of sex as well for shock factor.
Right. Yeah. Which is like, okay, but I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway for that, because we have seen that throughout Constantine's run so far. Yeah, but the thing is, not to this graphic level, though. Because, because I think it was mostly like, oh, we saw him getting up from, and there was a lady next to him, right? Like something like that. Or like he kisses his face flag. This one is like, oh my God. Like, it's like, you know, bow, chicka, bow, wow. Like, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the last of it. No, hold on. There's another. No, there isn't. So it brings us to the last of it, where he's so sexy now. Like, he's sexy. Like, you know, it's like his, like, look at this. Like, his, like, you know, the trench coat is flowing. He's like, he's looking all sexy. Once again, he never has a single thing to say because it's all passive. Like, people are talking about John all the time. And this is about a murder mystery, because there was a sex club where John was supposedly a frequent goer. By the way, we have seen John not liking sex club or idea of sex club before, but here we are.
This is like a BDSM club too.
BDSM, like, it's one of those places where hotshots, like, you know, rich people go to do things. That was, you know, we've seen this kind of thing before. Remember in Ennis's run?
Yeah.
So yeah, so apparently there was like a dead body in there, and it was about, they gather up all the people, like all the people who were working there, bring them to the police station, and everyone's recounting how much they loved being around John, being with John. And one of the things I've also noticed over here, anytime it was a man, like, you know, it was one of the male sex worker, they were clothed, but if it was a female sex worker, they were naked. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
then they were like in the bondage outfits and stuff.
Yeah, they were in the bondage outfit, and you were like, why? Why is this happening? Meanwhile, the same guy, right? And then meanwhile, the same guy that he duped before is doing something behind the background, and he's somehow involved in it. That's what you were trying to figure out. And then there was an FBI agent, the same FBI agent that he's been tormenting all this time, is also in charge of it. There was this whole weird thing about the lady police detective doing something to this FBI agent's asshole. And I'm like, what is going on over here?
Because and she kept like hitting on him and stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is professional.
Yeah, that is absolutely professional. You know, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly well, it was before Me Too, so maybe now not anymore, but before Me Too, anything goes.
Yeah.
So that was going on, all of this whole sex thing's going on, and in all through this, you realize John is bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wait, what?
Well, and this is where I was conflicted, because as much as I loved that, I knew it was going to happen, right? But and as much as I loved that it was introduced, that was most of the reason this got a 3 from me. The only problem was like, oh, why did it have to be him introduced?
Like, right? And because you kind of start thinking, did Brian Azzarello did this just for shock factor?
Yeah.
Like, it's very apparent. I'm trying to look for that thing. Like, he just smirked his way into this man's pant. Like, and supposedly, like, this is, like, they showed it before. Like, he was a gay, like, you know, this person.
I have a picture if you want.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one I was looking for.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it. Like, look at that. It was very apparent that, you know, because this is this guy also, like, you know, kind of before, when he knew John back in the day, he planted a kiss on him, and John was like, okay. And this time around, turns out that he meets him in this sex club, and they just full on, like, and he became, like, they were lovers for a couple of months. That's what was shown. It kind of went, and then there was a lot of racist sin. I'm like, oh, tell me more. Like, you know, John is looking.
Also, too, it was kind of confusing, though, is like the people, when they were talking to the different sex workers, they were saying how, not necessarily violent, but like they were describing John, and I was like, that doesn't sound like Constantine
at all.
Yeah.
At all. And then also, what is his power sets at this point? Because it seems like he was doing a lot of weird things.
Sex magic.
I don't know. There was a lot of sex magic, and he was just like, I don't know. He, like, so who was that person that was burned? Actually?
Yeah, that's what confused me, because I went through the whole, I'm not gonna lie, I went through the volume thinking, because didn't they think it was John that got burned?
Right, but it wasn't. Yeah. Because that FBI agent is like, no, it cannot be John Constantine, because I know that bastard, and this cannot be him. And we're like, we who are reading this, who we know that there's like 150 more issues to read of this. I'm like, that is definitely not John Constantine. Yeah. So you're like, okay, then who is this and what's going on? And that is never explained very well, all that well. And then, it just kind of ended with his lover, which I kind of give them kudos for, though. It's like, just like all his female lover, this male one also had a terrible end.
Yeah, that's true. So did he use him? That was one thing that I kind of gathered, but it's been a while since I read it. Did you remember?
I don't even know the lover behind all of any of this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I have no idea.
It was so confusing, though.
Right. So I'm actually kind of thinking, I'm like, well, is he the reason he, like, you know, John was just hanging around in the sex club, and that's where he met him, and they had a really very, like, you know, sexy time relationship, and then this guy decided that, oh, I'm gonna burn him, like, you know, I'm going to do something to him because he left me. That's pretty much what I could think about. Hey, listen, if we are wrong, please comment below and tell us what this story was about, because we are very confused.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, just like you, I also gave it a 3 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we're in sync on this. To be
like,
honest,
there's things redeeming about this, but also, you know, it's still so hard to rate it any higher than that because of the other volumes. So,
right. And here's the thing. I said a lot of bad shit about Jamie Delano. I forgive him.
He didn't do this to John.
Right? He didn't do this to John, and I get it. It was wordy, and it was kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? John wasn't raped 2-story arc in a row, and that is unforgivable. So.
Yeah.
I want to kind of read this particular review because it captured both of our feelings so well. So I'm just going to read this out loud, and this is just us being super lazy because this is supposed to be our review, but we're reading someone else's review. So Divan, I hope I'm saying it correctly. In Goodreads today, I feel like about 99% of Azzarello's run on Hellblazer is just like ... If John was writing a really bad fan fiction about himself and trying to make himself look way cooler than he actually is. Like, oh yeah, I went to America. I wish I could do a British accent. I can't. And got framed for murder and became the king of prison and then joined the sex club. And everybody wanted to get with me because I'm so great at sex. And then... And then ... It's like John, please. Also, he's literally always smirking.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish I had taken a drink every time the artist drew him smirking, because then I would have just passed out and not had to actually read this. Bad fanfic by a 12-year-old.
Oh man!
Honestly, that captured Brian Azzarello's run completely. Like it's just there's nothing else to say. I mean, I don't know. It was like, however we felt. I think for the last 2 videos, our review completely reflected our enthusiasm level. Completely reflected how the book was.
Yeah.
And which kind of leaves me the question of like, is it ever gonna get better than like Ennis's read? Then what are we doing?
I don't know. Well, and also, like, I'm really confused still as some of the ratings, like, I mean, there were a lot of ratings like ours where it was like, ooh, like 1 or 2 stars, like, why? But then I saw other ones where it was like 4 stars. I'm like, where are you getting that from?
Who are you people?
Did you read it?
Yeah. Yes, people. Bethany is judging you for your choices, for your rating choices. How are you rating this? So I think it's gonna be a short one. There's not much else to talk about. So the next one, it's going to be volume 16 to 18, I believe, and which is going to be Mike Carey's take on John Constantine, and. It's I'm very excited to read that because I really, really, really loved Lucifer by him, and The Girl with All the Powers. I think that's a prose novel, which I also absolutely love, and Suicide Risk a little bit. But so Mike Carey's run on it. As it stands right now, I do feel there is because I think Hellblazer gets the bad, Constantine especially gets a bad rep of not having a character, any kind of personal characteristics, and becoming sort of like a trench coat guys where male writers can write themselves in. I don't know, do you feel that way? Are you feeling that way?
I could see it in some of them, but I wouldn't say all of the authors. Like remember I told you that interview with
Delano.
Delano. He was saying how he put himself into the character, and I was like, oh, that shows. But then he made them all depressed, so I don't know. But
yeah, but I feel like Ennis and Jenkins was very consistent. Their Constantine was this is not the Constantine we know and love, and we refuse. This 14 and 15, as far as I'm concerned, it did not happen. It's not canon. It's not canon. No. Well, we're just going to take the part where he's bisexual, but other than that, we're rejecting everything else.
Throwing
it away. But anyway, so we're going to be back within a couple of weeks to a month time period with Mike Carey's run. I'm excited to read this, to see how it's going. And one of the things, by the way, Bethany, congratulations to us. We're more than halfway through.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was looking at my volumes the other day.
Yeah, more than halfway through. So tune in for that. Please leave us your comment if you didn't like, if your feelings are same as us. If you liked it, tell us why. Bethany will judge you, but hey, guess what? I'm going on the other hand. I'm like, hey, listen. But yeah, so leave the comments below, and thank you for tuning in, and do subscribe. We have the ongoing House of X and Powers of 10 chat every week, as well as other fun episodes, reviews, and stuff. If there's something else you want Bethany and I to tackle, do let us know. I know that we're gonna come back for Pritchard at one point. So thank you so much once again for joining, and thank you, Bethany, for sharing my rage about this.
Yeah, thank you for having me and letting me have my opinions on it.
Anytime. So we'll be back, and have a good week. Bye.